a cat scientist. Pumpkin? Oh, that is so gross, the human said as she bent towards me, petting my back. I was learning the joys of hacking up a hairball, blessed be Xanthar. This tiny species was, as the humans had put it, gross. I had spent all day mimicking the 3 other cats, as humans had dubbed them, lick themselves. I didn't know this would be the result. Here, girl, have some water, she said, pushing the bowl towards me. I lapped at it, feeling a pull in the small bowl my tongue made. I still wasn't used to how rough the appendage was. What a strange thing to have an appendage in your mouth. I made the normal cat noise at the human, and she bared her teeth at me. I tried to do the same, but she seemed startled by it. No need to be grumpy, Pumpkin, she said, petting me again, but more cautiously. Her hands were warm and soft against my back. For a moment I forgot that I was there on a mission, to gather data about the human race. Perhaps I could file that under ways humans greet one another and products of a warm circulatory system. Yes, that would do. So far in my research, this is what I had gathered while slinking around her house and knocking over various items. In an attempt to blend in, the other cats seemed to delight in that activity. Danny. 1. Humans are almost entirely bipedal, but they will bend down to greet a cat, lying almost prostrate on the ground as one would before a god. In doing this, they stick their back ends high into the air, a mimicry of the cat species when they are frightened. I believe this is to reassure the cat that while the human is the larger species, they are the submissive ones. 2. Humans feed cats far too much. I believe this is due to affection, but I am beginning to wonder if it is an inner resentment regarding their semi-enslavement to the cat race. I have received food 3 times today, despite not feeling hunger once. It was delicious, yes, but unnecessary. 3. Humans like to pick up their cats despite the cats protesting. I watched Danny, the human that kept this pumpkin cat, as she, in her words, made me dance. She took me underneath my armpits and then moved my body up and down in a strange ritual. An upbeat song sang about being happy in the background. She seemed utterly delighted by this. It makes me wonder if the other cats secretly enjoy this. Perhaps they are using subversion to entice the humans into doing this. Which brings me to point 4. 4. None of the cats seem to enjoy anything the human does, and the human does not care. She will pet them, be hissed at, and then pet them again. They play this game for hours. I cannot understand who this satisfies. The cats do not seem to enjoy it. Well, I can't be sure. They start off purring and then move to hissing, then back to purring, then back to hissing. I have gotten such mixed signals. I have been avoiding the act of purring altogether. 5. Humans are very proud of their cats. I have had my picture taken 10 times in the span of 1 day. That is an absurd number of times, even for the Flantarians, and they're the universal historians. The human civilization will be a goldmine of information for them if they document everything as thoroughly as they document the habits of their cats. I had my picture taken while I was sitting, standing, walking, sleeping, and even when I was evacuating my bowels. Danny said, "Oh, your poops look so cute, Pumpkin." An unsettling idea, to say the least. 6. In addition to photographing us almost constantly, she physically showed me off to some of her friends. The interaction must be relayed in full because I cannot, for the life of me, understand it. "Aw, Pumpkin is looking so cute these days, isn't he?" the male human, Scott, said as he stroked my fur. He raised his voice about an octave and spoke to me again, closer to my face. He scrunched up his features up into what looked like a painful display. "Aren't you just the cutest little cat? Who likes getting their belly rubbed? Oh, such a good boy." He scratched my belly and I did, indeed, like it. "He's been acting strange today, though. He's usually all over me, but he's been hiding under couches," Danny said. She was correct. I had been hiding under couches, but it was for reconnaissance purposes, and not a lack of affection. Strange that she would have such a good gauge on her cats that she could say when they were acting strange even from a few hours of activity. "Maybe he ate something weird," Scott said, scrunching his face and doing the voice again. Have you been a bad boy, Pumpkin? Did you stick your nose somewhere you shouldn't have? He made to grab for my nose, a delicate organ, and I pawed at his hand playfully. He grabbed that instead, shaking it as he would another human. Well, nice to meet you too, Mr. Pumpkin. I heard you're the cutest cat in the world. Anything to say? He held his fist to me as if holding out a comblink. I let out the traditional cat call, a meow. Danny, I'm going to die. He's so cute. Oh, I was going to ask, are you free this weekend? I need someone to cat sit. Of course, Scott beamed at Danny. I would love to. I did not understand the voice or the face or the enthusiasm, or why he said I was going to kill him. This was a peaceful mission after all. Scott. 1. Scott as a human was much like Danny, but he shows some other strange behaviours. He continued to do the voice and the face scrunching. The other cats seemed to respond with nonchalance when he approached them. I followed him around the house. He seemed very pleased with this. Pumpkin, he told me while in the kitchen. You're a pretty cool cat, you know that, right? Which brings me to 8. 2. Humans love talking to cats. We do not respond appropriately. There is no back and forth. Just the humans talking to us and us listening. The other cats often did not even give a signal that they were listening, but both Danny and Scott held entire monologues with us. We watched a very informative human TV show, The Big Bang Theory, where I learned that humans do, in fact, enjoy science, but those who do are shunned and scorned for it, despite still getting laid, which seemed to be a large part of the episodes that we watched. Scott laughed a lot and pet me, asking me multiple times, Are you hearing this? Gold! Absolute gold! I do not understand human humour, but he did seem to enjoy it. His heart rate was raised for much of it, mainly when the lead female was on screen, but his belly moving when he laughed was a pleasant sensation, as I had taken up residence there for the duration of the show. I won't fully admit that I fell asleep, but I may have. 3. Humans, like cats, seem to enjoy naps. Scott pulled me into the bedroom, his hand beneath my own belly, and curled up in the blanket that Danny had on her bed, and he pulled me close to his chest. I did not protest for fear of finding myself in a bad spot, but eventually, he did almost roll onto me, so I had to slink away. I found a new sleeping place on the windowsill where the sun beat down. From there, I could watch the other humans. 4. Humans enjoy acknowledging cats. They waved at me when they saw me in the window. They moved their lips. They took photos. They always took photos. My conclusion is this. Although more research is needed and will be conducted, but after 3 days I will talk a little about my preliminary findings. Humans are a semi-slave species that, for the benefits of their masters, pretend to be independent. They worship cats on a spiritual, emotional and physical level, lying prostrate before them, tending to them day and night, giving them absurd offerings of treats, which were delicious, and performing rituals with them such as dancing. I will be sending this report to the ship as soon as I am able to operate my hidden comlink with these paws, which are, in truth, quite useless for most things. Signed, Tabalin Berea, of the Parminterson people, from the research vessel Zetor-12. A sneaky cat scientist. Dor-Thun have been sent down with 2 other scientists from their vessel, Zetor-12, all of them into the tiny bodies of cats. But their locations have been random, meaning Dor-Thun was very alone, and very much on top of a roof. He did not understand how this quadruped had gotten up there, but he was not alone. Another cat stared at him in the moonlight, licking his paw with that horrific, rough mouth appendage that cats had. He wanted to make a sound of disgust, but only pronounced a meow. The other cat meowed back, moving towards him. He backpedaled to the side of the roof where the edge stopped him, thankfully. The other cat continued approaching. Meow, the scientist said. He wanted to say, how do I get down? Meow, the other cat replied. Ah, yes, what clear reasoning. Meow, the other cat said again. It licked at the fur on Durr's neck. He hissed at it, but it continued. Take me down, please. Meow. And the other cat moved away from him, towards the other side of the roof. Dora stood for a moment watching it. It looked back and meowed again. He followed. Oh, maybe it is trying to help me. But where the cat took him did not look helpful at all. He looked down over the side of the building at the platform below. The cat jumped down to it with calculated grace, moving across the thin edge of it without care. He swallowed his saliva and followed it, closing his eyes as the air rushed past him. Then he landed, light as a feather, his legs praising him beautifully. This is an extraordinary species. Why are we studying humans when these creatures exist? The cat led him down the stairs to a window. It squeezed itself with a very small crack in the window, moving into the room that was warm and well lit. Torrez followed cautiously, pushing himself through the same crack and marvelling at how his body bent to fit the space. He came out on the piece of furniture on the other side. His paws sunk into it. Oh, Scarlet, did you bring someone new? The male voice asked. Torrez spotted the human entering the room, a round liquid receptacle in his hands. He's cute, the human cooed, reaching for Torrez. The alien instinctively moved away from his touch. It's alright, buddy. I won't hurt you, I just need to check you for fleas and worms. I don't want anyone getting sick, just... The human paused, seeming to think. Wait here. Torrez did as he was told, as he felt he didn't have much choice. Fleas? Worms? Was this a condition that the cat could have? Does he think me dirty? The human came back, receptacle in one hand, a small morsel in his other. He brought the morsel to Torrez, who sniffed it. It smelled delicious, so he took into his mouth. Chewing it with his tiny fangs, and letting the taste settle on his mouth appendage, the human pet his head. That's a good boy. I'm going to check you now, okay? Torrez meowed, and the human ran his fingers through the cat's fur, inspecting it closely. When he went to check Torrez's backside, the smell of something sweet hit the alien's nose. The liquid in the receptacle smelled delectable. He stuck his mouth appendage out to it, the sweetness enveloping his mouth. Whoa, hey now, that's my tea, the human said, his tone light. He set the receptacle down on the table. Meow, Torrez said. Well, yes, I'm sure it does taste wonderful. I think so too, but cats aren't supposed to have milk. That's just a myth. Does he speak to all cats this way? Do they understand him as I do? What intriguing behaviour. The human sat down on the couch next to the alien, and the other cat, who the human had called Scarlet, came to rest on the human's lap. Torrez stayed where he was for a moment, but the human pulled him in close, settling him next to his thigh. Twinkle, he called out into the other rooms. There was the sound of a bell as a very fluffy, white cat trotted into the room. She looked excited. Look, we have a new buddy. Meow, Twinkle said. She came out to Torrez and sniffed him from her spot below the couch. He stared into her bright eyes with awe. Is it wrong to think of another cat as beautiful, gorgeous, embodying a million suns? Meow, though, was all that Torrez could say, but say it he did. He tried to push his sentiment into the singular sound. I think he likes you, the human exclaimed, bending down to pick up Twinkle. He kissed her between the shoulder blades and then moved his face back and forth in her hair. He placed her on the other side of his leg, away from Torrez. Wonderful, we have a full cat puddle. You're ready for a movie? Meow, came the reply from Twinkle. The human reached his hand down and pet her. Oh no, he said softly. I don't have enough hands. Torrez settled into the couch as the screen began to play a movie, something about two humans falling in love, but they didn't want to tell one another. A common trope for humans, he had heard. He wanted to tell Twinkle how beautiful she was, but she could never understand him. He wouldn't have the chance to run to her in the rain, yelling about his passion for her. He fell asleep while the human shed water from his eyes, words flying upwards on the screen. He woke to Twinkle poking him with a paw. The cat was staring at him curiously. Meow, he said sleepily. Meow, she said back. She snuggled her head into him. It reminded him of the greeting of his people, how they would incline their necks to one another, bring their heads together. Perhaps we aren't so different after all. Twinkle began to knead his stomach with her paws, but the pressure was too much for Torrez, so he moved away from her, rolling over onto his back. He found that position to be horrible, so he rolled once again onto his stomach. The other cat cocked her head to the side, watching him. She imitated the motion, rolling to him. He meowed at her and she meowed back. Is she copying me? He put his paw up to her and she met his. Oh my god, that is the cutest thing I've ever seen, the human said as he came into the room. He took out a device and took a photograph. Dorov looked up at him and meowed. You two getting along well? I'd say. Meow, Twinkle said. Great, well I made the vet appointment so you're going to be heading there later today. The human paused. I need to think of a good name for you. He squatted down next to Dorov, levelling his head at the alien and squinting. What about, he sighed, Steel, Thunder, Beast, Seth? My name means River, the human said. How did he... You just look like one, the human said, smiling. All grey and all motion. I like it. Twinkle meowed, licking at Dorov's side. That was just strange. Alright, River, this afternoon we'll get you to the vet to make sure you're in tip-top shape. Dorov didn't know what a vet was, but he didn't like the sound of it. He needed to get to his communicator as soon as possible. The team was supposed to beam it down to a nearby location. He could feel the tug of it in his mind. It wasn't far off. Psionic tech had been a large boon for them missions like this. Discretion was key. He'd have to wait for the human to leave. Thankfully it didn't take long. Soon it was just the cats. He slipped out the window, but Twinkle followed, her collar twinkling. He meowed at her. You don't need to come. Meow, she said back to him. Well, I do enjoy your presence. Perhaps it won't hurt. He made his way down to the platform that had gotten him from the roof. Twinkle seemed unsure on her feet, but she followed behind him as best she could. He jumped from the platform to the stone ground between the buildings. His comlink was somewhere in this alley, he could feel it. He began sniffing around the bag, trying to feel the vibrations with his whiskers. Twinkle did the same, sniffing at the bags as he did. She slinked behind the dumpster and came back, dragging a small pouch in her mouth. Oh, my comlink! Oh, Twinkle, you angel! He bounded over to her and opened the bag with his nose, reaching in and taking the device out. The screen lit up. He put his paw on it, ready to relay his message. Dorothy here. I have another cat, Twinkle, with me. I can't tell her, but she's beautiful and wonderful, and I wish I could know more about her. With that sentimentality out of the way, I can tell you what I have learned so far. Dora finished his report and took a deep breath through his tiny cat mouth. Twinkle put her paw on the comlink too, and he heard her thoughts loud and clear. Dorothy, you ass! It's Yorif! Xanathar save us, you fell in love with your co-worker as a cat.